Hey guys, let's talk about something that confuses just about everyone, ATARs and the scaling system. How does it all work? How should you think about choosing your subjects? And more importantly, what does it mean for your results? Well, in this video, I'm going to break it all down for you, how the scaling system works, why it exists, and what it means for your subject choices or your study strategy. Whether you're considering what subjects to choose for year 11 and 12, or you're just curious about how it all adds up, this info is super important for making sure that you're making smart decisions and staying ahead of the game. So let's get into it. First, it's true that not all subjects are created equal. Each year, subjects are scaled either up or down depending on how students in that cohort performed compared to their other subjects. So, for example, in some subjects, it's virtually impossible to get those really top marks, and only a small percentage of students are actually able to. Whereas in other subjects, if you think about things like art, music, design, and technology, these subjects might attract students who are already keenly interested or talented in that area, and therefore might have an easier time getting high marks in that subject, while maybe performing not quite as well in some of their other subjects. But here's the thing. Scaling isn't about rewarding hard subjects or punishing so-called easy subjects. It's just about leveling the playing field. It's about making sure that a study score of 30 in one subject is actually equivalent to a study score of 30 in another subject, no matter how different those subjects might be. Now, this leads me on to one of the biggest myths that exists around the scaling system. If you pick a subject that scales up, say specialist maths or languages, you'll automatically get a better ATAR. Whereas if you pick a subject that scales down, like arts or music, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. This is completely false. Scaling doesn't determine your results, your performance does. The idea that you should avoid subjects that scale down in favor of subjects that scale up is a myth that's been around for years and years and years. I can't tell you how many students have told me, I would love to take art, music, theatre studies, but I feel like I really should take specialist maths and algorithmics because they scale better. But here's the truth. Forcing yourself into subjects you don't like or you aren't strong in won't help your ATAR, and in fact, it will likely hurt your chances. My advice, and this is backed by VCAR, is to choose subjects that you actually enjoy and that you feel align with your strengths. You will perform the best you can and you will get the highest marks you can if you're studying something that you're genuinely interested in. Let me share my personal experience just for a point of reference. When I was in year 12, I did the HSC in New South Wales, which is very similar to the VCE. I took art, drama, and all of my other subjects were humanities like history. I didn't take maths, I didn't take any sciences, and I didn't do any other languages. At the time, people told me that I was dooming my chances of getting a high ATAR because I was taking too many low scaling subjects. But I loved those subjects and I worked really hard. I ended up getting an ATAR of 97.45. My success wasn't about scaling, it was about choosing subjects that I cared about and I was interested in and giving them my all. Also, if I did force myself to take a higher scaling subject like maths or sciences, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have gotten the results I did. I know for a fact I would have been way more stressed out during year 12 than I already was, trying to wrap my head around content that doesn't come naturally to me. But I also know my ATAR probably would have been dragged down by my likely low performance in those subjects. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get stuck into my explanation of how the scaling system actually works. VCAR collects all of your scores from your assessments and exams throughout the year, and they calculate your raw VCE study score. The average raw VCE study score across all subjects is 30. VTAC then steps in to scale these scores based on how students in one subject performed in their other subjects. So you might be wondering, if all of this is true, why do I keep telling you that you should disregard the scaling system and choose subjects that you find interesting? Well, VTAC actually tells us that a scaled down study score in a subject you performed really well in will likely still be higher than a scaled up study score in a subject you didn't perform too well in. VCAR even gave us a couple of examples to illustrate this point further. So Fandral took some of the highest scaling subjects he could. Specialist maths, algorithmics, and Chinese as a second language are often up there with some of the very highest scaling subjects. But he didn't perform too well in these subjects, and so even though they were scaled up, you can see that his language study there was bumped up by about 10 points. Even still, it wasn't enough to bump up his marks to the point where he'd get a high ATAR. On the other hand, when we look at Yelena's ATAR snapshot, we see that there are subjects like philosophy and literature that were hardly impacted by scaling at all. Nonetheless, because her raw scores were so high, she got a much, much higher ATAR. So to circle back around to our key advice, it is this. When we find a subject interesting or we have some kind of motivation or desire to learn about the topic, studying for that subject becomes 10 times easier. So many students have this ego pride thing of wanting to pick the harder options so that they can prove how smart they are. But ultimately, there is a key reason why you want to pick the easy option. And by that, I just mean picking the option most in line with your strengths or your interests. If you are going into year 11 and 12, the next year or two is going to be stressful and challenging. You're going to lose sleep. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours hunched over your desk. You will shed tears. Your hand will cramp for writing too many practice essays. At some point, you will have to say no to social time or engaging with your hobbies because you have work to do. So when you picture yourself sitting at your desk late at night, chipping away on some assignment when all you want to be doing is catching up on sleep, would you rather find yourself working on a subject that you find at least a little bit interesting or exciting? Or would you rather pick the subject that makes you want to rip your hair out and makes you feel like you have to study several additional hours just so you can wrap your head around the content? If you can make choices now in the interest of prioritizing your longer term well being, your mental health, and your ability to stay motivated and committed to your studies consistently over the next year or so, that's how you set yourself up for success. So, what's the key takeaway? Scaling is there to ensure fairness. While your raw scores might be adjusted slightly, the scaling system won't magically transform your final results. What matters most is how well you perform and how motivated and engaged you are with your subjects. Don't let myths about scaling impact your choices. Focus on what works for you and ignore the rest. Now, I really want to help answer any questions you guys might have about entering into this new school year, so drop me a comment and let me know if there's anything that's on your mind. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel because we are always coming out with new videos on how to ace BCE English.